I feel like I am losing my mind, and I don't know where else to turn. My name is Mark, and until a week ago, I thought I had a pretty decent marriage. My wife, Angela, and I have been together for 5 years. Sure, we've had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I genuinely believed we were solid. At least, I wanted to believe that. Last Friday night, Angela did something she'd never done before. She got dressed up in this shimmering black dress, one I didn't even know she owned, and told me she was going out to a club alone. That's when I knew something was off. Let me rewind a bit. Earlier that day, we'd had a small argument. It wasn't even about anything major, just one of those petty spats about how she'd been on her phone constantly the past few weeks. I told her it felt like I didn't exist when she was glued to that screen. Her response? Stop being so controlling, Mark. I need my space sometimes. Controlling. That hit me hard. I wasn't trying to control her. I was just trying to understand why she'd been so distant. That evening, she was quieter than usual, but I figured she was still upset about our earlier argument. Around 7 o'clock, I saw her walking out of the bathroom, hair styled to perfection, makeup flawless, and that dress. Honestly, I didn't even know what to say. I asked her, "What's the occasion?" She just looked at me and said, "I need some air. I'm going to meet some friends at a club." Now, Angela is not a club person. She's always been the kind of woman who preferred cozy nights on the couch over loud music and flashing lights. So I asked, "Which friends? I didn't know you were planning this." That's when it happened. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she just snapped. "Can't you trust me for once?" That hit me like a punch to the gut. Trust her? Of course, I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. But something about the whole situation felt off. The dress, the sudden plan, the tears. It all felt like a scene from a bad movie. I tried to calm her down, told her I wasn't trying to accuse her of anything, but she brushed past me, grabbed her purse, and slammed the door on her way out. For the next few hours, I sat there on the couch, staring at the front door. My stomach was in knots. I kept replaying her words in my head. "Can't you trust me for once?" Was I being paranoid? Was she really just out with friends? Or was there more to the story? I wanted to call her, but I stopped myself. I didn't want to be that guy, the insecure husband who couldn't let his wife have a night out. But then my phone buzzed. It was a text from one of my buddies, Jake, who'd been at a nearby bar. "Hey man, I think I just saw Angela heading into Midnight Lounge with some dude. You okay?" My heart dropped. Midnight Lounge was one of those trendy clubs downtown, the kind of place Angela would never go, at least not with me. And who was this dude Jake was talking about? I tried to convince myself it was a mistake, that Jake must have seen someone who just looked like her, but deep down, I knew he was right. I spent the rest of the night pacing the living room, my mind racing with questions I didn't want to answer. By the time the clock hit midnight, I was a mess. Then, at 1:15 a.m., the front door creaked open, and there she was, Angela, standing in the doorway, her hair disheveled, her makeup smeared, and her shoes in her hand. "What happened to you?" I asked, my voice shaking. She just looked at me, her face pale, and muttered, "I don't want to talk about it." Then she disappeared into the bedroom, leaving me standing there, staring at the closed door. And that's when I realized I couldn't let this go. Whatever happened at that club, whatever made her come home looking like that, I needed to know, even if it destroyed me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of Angela breathing next to me. Her back was turned, and I couldn't shake the image of her standing in the doorway, disheveled, pale, and avoiding my eyes. Whatever happened at that club wasn't nothing. I could feel it in my gut. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I made coffee, scrambled some eggs, and waited for her to come out of the bedroom. When she finally emerged, she looked off. Her usual confident, polished demeanor was gone, replaced by someone who looked like they hadn't slept in days. She didn't say much, just mumbled a quick morning, and sat down at the table. "So," I started, trying to sound casual, "how was your night?" Her fork froze midway to her mouth. For a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Panic, maybe, but then she plastered on a fake smile and said, "It was fine. Just danced a bit, caught up with some friends. Nothing special." Nothing special? I wanted to scream. Jake's text about her being with some dude flashed in my mind, but I bit my tongue. Instead, I pressed a little further. "Which friends?" "Anyone I know." She rolled her eyes and sighed. "Mark, do we really have to do this? I just went out to blow off some steam. Can't you let it go?" Her defensiveness only made me more suspicious, but I nodded and let the conversation drop, at least for the moment. I wasn't about to let this slide, though. As soon as she left the room, I grabbed her phone from the counter. It was locked, of course, but I'd seen her type the passcode 100 times. My hand shook as I entered it and scrolled through her messages. Most of the texts were harmless chats with her mom, some group messages with her coworkers. But then I saw a name I didn't recognize, Brandon. My stomach tightened as I opened the thread. The messages weren't outright incriminating, but they didn't feel innocent either. Brandon, last night was amazing. Can't wait to do it again. Angela, we need to be careful. Mark is starting to ask questions. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. My hands were trembling so badly, I almost dropped the phone. Who the hell was Brandon? What did she mean by last night was amazing? My head was spinning, but I couldn't stop reading. Brandon, don't worry. He'll never know. You're worth the risk. I had to put the phone down before I threw it across the room. My mind was racing. Who was this guy? How long had this been going on? And what exactly happened last night at that club? I decided to confront her later that day, but I needed more information first. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Jake. Hey man, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. About that text you sent me last night, are you sure it was Angela? And who was she with? Jake hesitated for a moment before answering. Yeah, man, it was her. I didn't want to say anything, but she was with some guy I didn't recognize. They looked close. Like, really close. That was all I needed to hear. My suspicions weren't just in my head. There was something going on, and I wasn't about to let her brush it under the rug. When Angela came home from running errands later that afternoon, I was waiting for her in the living room. I didn't waste any time. Who's Brandon? I asked, holding up her phone. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might faint. But then she recovered, her expression hardening into that defensive mask I'd come to recognize all too well. Are you seriously going through my phone now? Do you even hear yourself, Mark? This is why I needed a break last night. You're suffocating me. I'm suffocating you. I snapped, my voice rising. You're the one sneaking around with some guy behind my back. Don't even try to deny it. I saw the messages. She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and something else I couldn't quite place. Fine, she said finally, her voice cold. You want the truth? Brandon's just a friend. Someone who actually listens to me, unlike you. But if you're so obsessed with controlling me that you have to spy on my messages, maybe we've got bigger problems. I didn't believe her for a second, but before I could say anything else, she stormed out of the room and slammed the bedroom door behind her. That night, I slept on the couch, my mind spinning with questions and doubts. I knew she was lying. I could feel it in my gut. But how far had this gone, and what was I supposed to do now? The next morning, I woke up on the couch, my back aching and my head pounding. Angela didn't come out of the bedroom until late, and when she did, she acted like nothing had happened. She walked into the kitchen, poured herself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the table, scrolling on her phone as if the night before had been just another day. I couldn't take it anymore. The anger, the doubt, the humiliation, it was all bubbling up inside me like a volcano about to erupt. I had to get to the bottom of this. Angela, I said, standing in the doorway, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to talk. She didn't even look up from her phone. I'm not in the mood, Mark. Well, too bad. I snapped, because I'm not letting this go until I get some answers. Who is Brandon? And don't you dare tell me he's just a friend again, because I'm not buying it. Her eyes finally met mine, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of guilt, but just as quickly, her expression hardened. You're being ridiculous, she said, her tone icy. You're making something out of nothing, as usual. Nothing. I shot back, my voice rising. I saw the messages, Angela. I know you were with him at the club. I know you've been lying to me. So stop pretending like I'm the crazy one here, and just tell me the truth. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Fine. You want the truth? Here it is. I needed a break, Mark. From you. From this. From everything. Brandon is someone I can talk to without feeling judged or suffocated. That's it. There's nothing else going on, so stop acting like I'm some kind of villain. I stared at her, my heart pounding. I wanted to believe her, but the pieces didn't add up. The late nights, the secretive behavior, the text messages. It was too much to ignore. Do you really expect me to believe that? I asked, my voice shaking. Because it doesn't sound like you're just talking to him, Angela. And if you think I'm going to sit here and pretend like everything's fine, you're wrong. She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. You know what, Mark? I'm done with this conversation. Believe whatever you want. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince you of something you've already made up your mind about. And with that, she grabbed her purse and walked out the door, leaving me standing there, seething with frustration and disbelief. I knew I couldn't keep doing this, living in limbo, second-guessing everything she said and did. I needed proof, real proof. So I made a decision that I never thought I'd make. I hired a private investigator. It felt like a drastic step, but I couldn't think of any other way to get the answers I needed. I gave the investigator all the information I had, her recent behavior, the texts with Brandon, the name of the club she went to that night, and waited anxiously for him to dig deeper. In the meantime, I tried to keep up appearances, but it wasn't easy. Angela acted like nothing was wrong, smiling and laughing as if we weren't on the brink of collapse. It was infuriating, but I forced myself to play along, hoping that she wouldn't suspect anything. A few days later, the investigator called me with an update. Mark, he said, his tone serious, I think you're going to want to sit down for this. My heart sank. What did you find? I followed her yesterday when she said she was going to run errands, he continued. She didn't go to the store. She went to a hotel. A hotel? The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Are you sure it was her? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Positive, he said. She was with a man, mid-30s, dark hair, athletic build. They checked in together around 3 p.m. and didn't leave until after 7 o'clock. I felt like I was going to be sick. My mind was racing, trying to process what I just heard. Angela wasn't just lying to me. She was actively betraying me. Do you have photos? I managed to ask. Yes, he replied. I'll send them over. When the photos arrived, there was no denying the truth. There she was, smiling and laughing with Brandon, if that was even his real name, walking into the hotel like they didn't have a care in the world. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the images, each one cutting deeper than the last. I felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and humiliation. How could she do this to me, to our marriage? That night, I didn't say a word to her. I couldn't. I was too consumed by rage and sorrow to even look at her. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. The next morning, Angela acted as if everything was completely normal. She was humming to herself while making coffee, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I couldn't stomach the sight of her. The pictures from the private investigator burned in my mind like a brand, and every smile she flashed felt like a slap in the face. I knew I couldn't keep pretending. The lies, the betrayal, it was all too much. I had to confront her, but I didn't want to rush it. I needed to be calm and deliberate. If I exploded, she'd just turn it back on me, calling me controlling or paranoid. No, this time I would control the narrative. Angela, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter. My voice was steady, though I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. She glanced up at me, her eyes narrowing slightly. What? We need to talk, I said firmly. Her expression shifted, the carefree facade faltering for a moment before she recovered. About what? She asked, feigning innocence. About where you've been, I said, locking my gaze onto hers. And who you've been with. She froze, her hand hovering over her coffee mug. What are you talking about? She said, her voice tinged with annoyance. I know about Brandon, I said, each word sharp and deliberate. I know about the hotel. I know about everything. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might confess. But then she did what she always did. She turned the tables. Oh, for God's sake, Mark, she snapped, slamming her mug down on the counter. You're seriously going through my phone, spying on me, and hiring someone to follow me? Do you even hear how insane you sound right now? Insane. I shot back, my voice rising. Don't you dare try to twist this around on me, Angela. I saw the photos. I know you've been lying to me for weeks, sneaking around behind my back, while I've been sitting here like an idiot trusting you. Her eyes flashed with anger, and she crossed her arms defensively. You have no idea what you're talking about, she said coldly. Brandon is just a friend. We met for coffee, that's it. Coffee. I barked out a bitter laugh. You really expect me to believe that? People don't book hotel rooms for 4 hours to grab a latte, Angela. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment, she looked like she might break. But then she straightened her shoulders, her expression hardening. Fine, she said, her voice dripping with venom. You want the truth? Yes, I was with Brandon, and yes, we went to a hotel. But you know what, Mark? It's your fault. My fault. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My fault, I repeated, disbelief coursing through me. Yes, your fault, she spat. You've been smothering me for years, constantly questioning me, never trusting me. Do you have any idea how exhausting that is? Brandon actually listens to me. He makes me feel alive, like I'm worth something you haven't done in a long time. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer. I felt a wave of emotions, rage, hurt, disbelief, all crashing into me at once. But I refused to let her see how deeply her words cut. So this is how you fix it? I asked, my voice trembling with anger. By cheating? By sneaking around and lying to my face? She shrugged, a cold, detached look in her eyes. Maybe if you'd been a better husband, I wouldn't have had to. That was it. The final straw. I couldn't listen to another word. Without saying anything, I turned and walked out of the kitchen. I needed to get out of the house, to clear my head before I did something I'd regret. I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind racing. Every moment of our marriage played in my head like a film on fast forward. The good times, the bad times, the warning signs I'd ignored, all of it leading up to this moment. When I finally came home, Angela was waiting for me in the living room. She didn't look angry anymore, just tired. I don't know what you want from me, Mark, she said quietly. We can't keep living like this. Maybe it's time we accept that this us isn't working anymore. Her words hung in the air, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in our marriage for what they were, irreparable. But even as I stood there, staring at the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going down without a fight. I stood there in silence, her words echoing in my mind. Maybe it's time we accept that this us isn't working anymore. She said it like she was trying to toss out a broken chair, something to discard without much thought. It wasn't anger I felt anymore. It was disbelief. After everything, she had the audacity to act like she was the victim. You don't get to decide that, Angela. I finally said, my voice low and steady. Not after what you've done. You don't get to rewrite the story and paint yourself as the martyr. You broke us, not me. She rolled her eyes as if my pain was some trivial inconvenience. Mark, this isn't all on me. You've been suffocating me for years. Do you think I wanted to feel like this, like I had to go somewhere else to be happy? You're not blameless here. Blameless. She kept throwing that word around like it would justify her betrayal. You're right, I said, my voice sharper now. I'm not blameless. I trusted you. I believed in you, and I ignored all the signs because I wanted to believe we were better than this. But let me be clear, you made this choice. You brought someone else into our marriage. You lied to my face, and now you're trying to spin this as my fault? Do you even hear yourself? Her expression hardened, her defensiveness kicking in. I'm not going to sit here and let you play the victim, Mark. I made a mistake, okay? But maybe if you'd been more supportive, more present, I wouldn't have felt so alone. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. Unbelievable. You cheat on me, and somehow this is still my fault? Do you even realize how twisted that is? The room fell silent again, the tension so thick it felt like the walls were closing in. Angela shifted uncomfortably, her usual confidence crumbling under the weight of the evidence. For the first time, she looked genuinely unsure of herself. So what now? She asked quietly, her voice barely audible. I stared at her, the woman I once thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, and felt a surge of anger mixed with heartbreak. What now? I repeated. What now is that you pack your things and leave. You made your choice, Angela. Now you get to live with it. Her eyes widened in shock. You're kicking me out? She asked, her voice rising. After everything we've been through, you're just going to throw me out like I'm nothing? I stood up, my fists clenched at my sides. You're the one who treated this marriage like it was nothing, Angela. You made your bed, now lie in it. With Brandon. She opened her mouth to argue, but I raised a hand to stop her. Save it, I said firmly. I've heard enough of your excuses. I'll give you a week to pack your things and find somewhere else to stay. After that, we're done. Her face twisted in anger, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she stormed past me, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I stood there for a long moment, my heart pounding in my chest, before finally sinking onto the couch. It was over, or at least it felt like it should be. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of the fallout. Later that night, I heard the sound of her sobbing through the closed bedroom door. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her, to comfort her like I used to when things got tough, but I couldn't. Not this time. The damage was done, and there was no going back. The next morning, Angela emerged from the bedroom, her eyes red and puffy. She didn't say a word to me as she grabbed her keys and left the house. I didn't ask where she was going. I didn't care. All I knew was that the woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by a stranger who had shattered everything we'd built together. But even as I sat there, trying to process everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story. Something about Brandon didn't sit right with me. Who was he? How long had this been going on? And why did Angela seem so defensive, even now? I picked up my phone and dialed the private investigator. I need you to dig deeper, I said. I want to know everything there is to know about Brandon. The next few days passed in a blur of anger, confusion, and silence. Angela avoided me as much as possible, either locking herself in the bedroom or disappearing for hours without explanation. I didn't care. As far as I was concerned, she wasn't my wife anymore, just a stranger living under my roof until I could get her out for good. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something bigger at play. The way Angela reacted when I confronted her, the guilt mingled with defiance. It didn't add up. And Brandon, who the hell was this guy? Why did he seem so confident that I'd never find out? The private investigator called me 2 days later. His voice was serious, and I could tell right away that he'd uncovered something big. "Mark," he said, "you're not going to like this." My stomach churned. "Just tell me," I said, bracing myself. I dug into Brandon's background, he began. Turns out, he's not just some random guy. He's a contractor who's been working with Angela's company for the past 6 months. They met during a corporate event. Apparently, he was hired to oversee some renovations at her office. I clenched my jaw, the pieces starting to fall into place. So they met at work, big deal. What else? The investigator hesitated, and I could hear him take a deep breath. He's married, Mark. And it gets worse. His wife filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. According to the court records, she cited infidelity as the reason. Guess who the other woman is? I felt the blood drain from my face. Angela. I whispered, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. Bingo, the investigator said. I also found out that Brandon has a bit of a reputation. This isn't the first time he's gotten involved with a married woman. Well, let's just say he knows how to manipulate people. I sat there in stunned silence, my mind racing. Angela wasn't just cheating. She was involved with a guy who made a habit of ruining marriages, and now he was dragging ours into his mess. "Send me everything you have," I finally said. "Photos, records, all of it. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with." The investigator agreed, and within the hour, my inbox was flooded with evidence. Photos of Angela and Brandon together, emails they'd exchanged, even a copy of the divorce filing from Brandon's wife. It was all there, laid out in black and white. One email in particular caught my attention. It was from Brandon to Angela, sent just a few days before I confronted her. "Angela, don't let Mark get in your head. He doesn't need to know anything. This is our time now, trust me. Everything will work out. We just need to keep things quiet for a little longer." Our time. Keep things quiet. The words made my skin crawl. Brandon wasn't just some fling. He was trying to worm his way into Angela's life permanently, and worse, she was letting him. That night, Angela came home late as usual. I was waiting for her in the living room, the evidence spread out on the coffee table. "Sit down," I said, my voice cold and steady. She froze in the doorway, her eyes darting to the pile of papers and photos. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's everything," I said, gesturing to the table. "Emails, photos, court records. Everything you've been hiding from me. So let me ask you again, Angela, who is Brandon?" She hesitated, her face a mixture of fear and defiance. "Mark, save it," I snapped, cutting her off. "I already know. He's married. His wife is divorcing him because of you. And this," I held up a printed copy of the email. "This proves that you've been planning this for weeks. So don't stand there and tell me it's not what it looks like." Angela sank into the chair, her hands trembling. For the first time, she looked truly defeated. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she said quietly. "No," I said, my voice hard. "You didn't want me to find out at all. You thought you could keep lying to my face while you played house with this guy. Did you even think about what this would do to me? To us? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't about to let her crocodile tears sway me. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, her voice cracking. I didn't know how to stop. You didn't mean for it to go this far? I repeated, my voice rising. Angela, you've been sneaking around with a married man for months. You've been lying to me, humiliating me, and now you're sitting here acting like you're the victim? She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say goodbye, I said firmly, because we're done. I don't care what you do with Brandon, but you're not doing it under my roof. Pack your things and leave now. Her head snapped up, panic flashing in her eyes. Mark, wait. Can we at least talk about this? Please? We've been talking, Angela, I said, standing up, and all you've done is lie. I'm done talking. You made your choice, and now you get to live with it. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Finally, she stood up and walked to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. As I sat back down, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control over my life again. Angela's lies had shattered our marriage, but I wasn't going to let her destroy me. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Angela wasn't the kind of person to go quietly, and Brandon, well, I had a feeling he'd be showing up sooner rather than later. The next morning, Angela was gone. Her clothes, her belongings, and even her favorite mug were missing from the house. She didn't leave a note, didn't call, and for a brief moment, I thought I might finally have some peace. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Angela wasn't the type to walk away without a fight. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. You've made a huge mistake, Mark. You're going to regret pushing her out. Brandon. I stared at the screen, anger bubbling to the surface. This guy had the nerve to text me after everything he'd done. I should have ignored it, but I couldn't help myself. The only mistake I made was trusting her in the first place. Stay out of my life. The response came almost immediately. She deserves better than you. Maybe now she'll finally get it. I tossed the phone onto the couch, my hands trembling with rage. Brandon wasn't just a liar and a homewrecker. He was arrogant enough to rub it in my face. I decided to block his number, but before I could, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from my email. The subject line made my blood run cold. Urgent. Evidence of defamation. I opened the email to find a message from a lawyer claiming to represent Angela and Brandon. The email accused me of spreading false information about their relationship and slandering their reputations. Attached was a list of demands, a formal apology, a promise to stop sharing information about them, and, unbelievably, $10,000 for emotional damages. It was laughable. I had every piece of evidence to prove their affair, but the audacity of their threats showed just how delusional they were. I called my own lawyer immediately, and after explaining the situation, he reassured me. They're bluffing, he said. This is a scare tactic. Don't engage. Still, the email left a sour taste in my mouth. Brandon wasn't just trying to steal my wife. He was trying to make me out to be the villain in my own story. The following week, Angela tried to contact me directly. She showed up at the house unannounced, looking disheveled and desperate. Mark, we need to talk, she said, standing on the porch with her arms crossed. There's nothing to talk about, I said, refusing to let her inside. Please, she begged, her voice cracking. I made a mistake. Brandon isn't who I thought he was. He's been pressuring me, manipulating me. I didn't see it until now. I want to come home. I stared at her, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to believe her, to believe that she'd finally realized the gravity of what she'd done. But the damage was too deep, and I wasn't about to let her walk back into my life like nothing had happened. You burned that bridge, Angela, I said firmly. There's no coming back from this. You made your choice, now live with it. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded with me, but I stood my ground. Eventually, she gave up and left, her shoulders slumped in defeat. It wasn't the ending I'd envisioned for our marriage, but it was the one we'd arrived at nonetheless. Over the next few months, I focused on rebuilding my life. I finalized the divorce, sold the house, and moved to a new city where I could start fresh. As for Angela and Brandon, their relationship imploded not long after our confrontation. I heard through mutual friends that Brandon's wife had taken him to court and cleaned him out in the divorce, leaving him broke and humiliated. Angela, meanwhile, bounced from one failed relationship to another, her reputation tarnished by the very man she'd thrown everything away for. Looking back, I realized that losing Angela wasn't the tragedy I thought it was at the time. It was a blessing in disguise, a chance to break free from a toxic relationship and find a version of myself I hadn't seen in years. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, there's no gluing it back together. But as painful as the journey was, I'm grateful for the lesson. And now, I'm finally at peace.